Bryce coming for McKay, is that how you see that?
Yeah, in the end, last night confirmed that. So Bryce in for McKay. Talia will bring in Butts for Talia. We don't get to train this week with a full session, unfortunately, with a 5-day break, but it's a good chance to freshen the guys up, so it allows us to make some of those decisions. And Butts is coming off, obviously his debut, where unfortunately didn't get to play again after that, so we're glad to get him back in.
Talia just the same knee that's troubled him, that's the same one he snagged in bed last year, I think.
Yeah, he's had a few issues around the knee, but this is more management of that. Last time we travelled, we learned a fair bit from, especially with tails, around the flight to 4 a.m, 4:30 a.m, up in the morning. It's quite a challenge. So we looked at this a fair way out and made a decision that, look, it might be a possibility. We see how we go into that 5-day break. So he'll prepare now for what will be a 10-day break, similar to what we've done previously. And
Are you surprised by the Dave McKay outcome in the tribunal last night?
No, I've got to be careful with my wording around it. I love the way D-Mac plays, and it's an unfortunate one for him. He's such a clean footballer and has done for over 200 and mid 200s games, 14 years of footy. But it's it's the tough part of our game at the moment is that contest and the ability to go hard. As coaches, we look at training him a certain way. We want them to go hard at the footy, but we also understand the importance of protecting, players' necks and their spines. So I totally understand where the AFL are going with that.
Will he come back in the week after? Is it too far to forecast whether he plays the last game?
We'd like to think that with the form he's had, that we'll definitely be looking at bringing him back in off of a suspension for one game. But I don't want to say that and lock it in because. There is something with team chemistry. There's something with performance that you want to reward guys for performing. One of those is Bryce is coming in to play a farewell game, and we look forward to him performing really well. But we'll make some decisions off the back of this weekend.
Have you got any more information about Taylor Walker, whether he will be in or won't be?
No, none more than you guys probably know already. He's got a slight ankle issue at the moment, but. Without us being able to train, he'll get put through a fitness test. At the moment, you're probably sort of looking at 50-50 with Tex. Again, it's a 5-day break, it's travel. I'd like to hope he gets up because he's been really important to us over the last month. Just from a on-field leadership, his contest in the air, I think he's in some good form. So that'll be our last-minute decision we make there.
And Tom Lynch available again after a while out?
Yes, so Lynch will play. We're not sure exactly who for at this point, but yeah, Tom's form coming into that injury was probably one of our key forwards and key on-field leaders. So it'd be great to have him back. He's worked hard. There's no one works harder than Lynchy off the field and continue to lead while he was off field. So we really look forward to him coming back into an important role.
Does Hamill get a credit?
He's one that's right.
Ask about everyone on the list.
Right in the mix, yeah. He's right in the mix. Will, we've been conservative in that space, and coming back to the injury prevention and not taking any risks around that. With Will, he's such an exciting part of our future that we want to make the right decision there. But yeah, he is in the mix at this point.
Is there a long-term concern there, or is this just making sure that he's managed correctly early?
No, not so much a long-term concern, more about making sure we do the right thing in this instance. A couple of concussions in the 1 year, and we're really looking to strengthen up his neck and make sure that he's in a position where he can take a tackle if it happens to be a sling tackle. So again, he may be a chance this week or possibly the week after.
How do you feel Bryce will handle? We heard obviously talk a lot yesterday, but now that he's sort of had a night to process it, how do you think the emotion will be on the weekend?
Yeah, I saw him this morning and he looked quite relaxed. He looked like it was a little bit of a weight off. I think he'll come out and perform really well. I think he'll be freed up. There'll be some nerves there, but there's nothing better than nerves, especially the amount of footy he's played. To feel that nervous energy again, I think it's a good thing for him. And we'll look to really get him into the game and let him unleash his best footy. I know the boys will be keen.
What if he has a belt? He has 30, he kicks 3.
Well, that'll be a great way for him to finish up. And we've seen it happen before.
Yeah. I heard you yesterday say about the position of him over the last sort of 12 months and how he struggled to play, he struggled to get ahead of some of the young kids. Did you think you have to turn to your youth as early as you did in your career?
No, I probably didn't. I wouldn't put it that way, the turning to the youth. I think I was really confident looking at the list of what was there that probably hadn't seen games over the last couple of years. And we're talking about guys like Chase, Ned McHenry, who unfortunately this year hasn't quite got his body where we'd like it to be. But McPherson through injury, I knew he was a player, and there was something exciting there. Will Hamill as well, hadn't really had an opportunity at the level that we all felt. Given the opportunity, he'd rise to another level. Scholl's another one who, we're not so much turning to them. I think what we're doing is we're just putting the opportunity out there for those guys to show what they've got. That was an expectation coming in, and we've been able to do that this year. I've been really pleased with what we've seen throughout the year in that space. That hasn't given us ultimate results of win-loss, but it has given us some really good wins off-field and going forward with development.
The midfielders had the heat on it all season. How is it that they've been able to turn it around in the last couple of games?
Yeah, well, it's probably a combination of what they've done individually, but what they've done as a collective as well. We've really simplified back a lot of the language around the way we want to play. And that came off the back of some communication from our captain during part of the season. And we really got some clarity around what it was we were looking for from a coaching group, as well as what we were after from our players. And I think with that clarity came the ability for, and I mentioned it, guys like Matty Crouch and their ability to turn a season around where Matty was struggling early, and he'd be the first to admit it. And now he's playing outstanding football. He seems lighter in the head. He seems to have more clarity around what it is we're looking for, and he's able to go out and do that each week. And that's only one example. Laird's gone in there as well. We know what Sloaney brings week in, week out. Keys, Scholl on the wing. These guys have got real clarity about our game plan. So it makes it easier for our guys to perform on weekends.
Are you expecting any other players to announce that 2021 might happen for them? Or will you announce?
No, not at this point. No.
That's not an expectation. I know you were saying that you've told some players that their futures are probably a little grim. Within your planning, do you have an idea of how many more or how that might roll?
Look, only through open conversation I've had with players. There's nothing I'm expecting to come in the next week or two around retiring or any of those sort of announcements. But there's a fair bit still to go through. There's uncertainty going forward, unfortunately, with what those list sizes are going to be. So, with that comes an inability for us to make decisions in certain areas. That's just sort of where it sits at the moment. We'll know more. It's going to be tough because there's a final series to go through. It depends on when the AFL come out and give us that more information.
Well, good guys.
Just changing tack for 1 second. There's reports circulating at the moment that next season there could be a 28-game season with shorter quarters. What's your sort of feel around that?
Yeah, I saw that one. Look, we'll play footy anywhere, anyway, and we'll have to adapt. We've learned over the last 10 months that it's important to be flexible. So, whatever's decided, we'll have to start to adapt to that. It'll be quite a change. When you're talking about putting your list together of what style of play you're after. If we keep the shorter quarters, it's going to change the type of players that are dominating games. I think we saw a change this year with that. If it goes to 28 games in a season, what does that mean for the sort of player we're after? Will we play deeper into our list? Again, so many questions that we don't have answers to at this point. So I don't want to make a statement around whether I like it or not. We'll just adapt. We're reasonably flexible.
Just on that, what type of players do you think are dominating this
It's a good question. Yeah, look, I think what you've seen this year with a slightly shorter game is you've seen some more dynamic players step up, in those midfield roles where, you're not seeing quite as much of a grind out late in quarters or late in games. Where some, gifted aerobic players will start to grind through and dominate late in quarters. We've seen a bit of that, and that'll be interesting where we go to next year. And it does change your thought as a coaching group or as a football department around exactly what do you target. I'm sure we're all in that space at the moment. We're pretty keen to know what's coming in the future.
So Darcy Fogarty's power in the midfield, like Petrarca?
Yeah, that would be lovely. Yeah, Petrarca's an example of it, isn't he? He's had a fantastic year, and Darcy's a very similar style. With the power he's got and the attributes he holds, it's maybe we go to 10-minute quarters. Darcy will just dominate.
If it does go back to normal leagues, and you touched on sort of the direction you might take next year, I assume you're constantly in dialogue with Reedy about players to chase. Perhaps is there a style of player that you've identified you have a gap in? You've got Running, McHenry and Jones and these sorts of guys. Is there a certain area where you think you're just missing this sort?
Look, without being specific, we talk at length, weekly around what it is what are we looking at, what are we doing, and again, a lot of those conversations aren't so much, they're not dialed in right at this point exactly on a particular position. You've got to look at the draft, what's coming this year compared to next year, and again, back to your question around where's the game going. So there's so many factors in there that we're not locked in on any of those at the moment. We're very open to what might be going forward. So it's hard for me to answer that one specifically.
There is some sort of question around with the season on the 28 games. Is there some question around potential injuries with the shorter list that you're now going to have as well?
Well, again, you're talking about we don't know if we've got shorter lists yet. Nothing's locked in. So we go to 28 games, we don't know if we're going to 28 games. It's only things being thrown out there, I assume on Twitter. That's where I read it anyway. I haven't heard anything otherwise. So at the moment, we're planning for the information the AFL give us, which is unfortunately just limited at this point, and we understand why. It's been a challenging season. So we'll prepare for whatever's coming, and then the moment we get more detail, we'll go get our detail in place as well.
Do you know what you'd like your coaching box to look like next year? Not in terms of who, but in terms of a structure, what you'd like around you?
Yeah, similar again. I felt like we've really developed across this year. As with bringing any new group together and new ideas in, it takes a little bit of time for you to adjust. There's no doubt early we were going through an adjustment period. I was working with a coaching group on, we've got a slightly different game plan, slightly different values to what the previous coaches have had. So we'll continue to do that into next year. We'll develop from within, but we'll also, and there's an understanding that we need to get better. So we'll look externally as well, and we'll make some decisions around that as we go forward of what's available. It's a really interesting time for everyone across the league. Every club's going to try and get better, and there are a lot of good people out there. Unfortunately, they're falling out of the industry because of cutbacks.